Welcome to the Human Trafficking Awareness Training provided by the Human Resources Administration Division of the Georgia Department of Administrative Services. This training provides you with an overview of human trafficking and how you can help prevent it.
Hello, I'm First Lady Marty Kemp. On behalf of the entire Kemp family, we want to welcome you to this training portal and say thank you for doing your part to end human trafficking. In January 2019, we attended a human trafficking awareness event called Stop Traffic and saw firsthand the impact this evil industry is having on our communities.
That day, we watched 72 school buses representing the 3,600 kids sold into modern-day slavery each year drive around Atlanta, opening our eyes to this problem that many had ignored for too long.
As a mother to 3 daughters, my heart wept for all the innocent individuals victimized by this evil industry. I knew that we had to take action, and since then, we've made great strides.
Shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order creating the Georgians for Refuge, Action, Compassion, and Education, or GRACE Commission. By bringing together subject matter experts, policymakers, private sector leaders, and law enforcement, we are working together to end human trafficking in Georgia once and for all.
Along with the GRACE Commission and our partners in the General Assembly, we have made Georgia a national leader in supporting survivors and cracking down on traffickers and buyers. Dedicated units in both the GBI and Attorney General's office have investigated and prosecuted dozens of trafficking cases. But we know one of the most important things we can do is educate Georgians about human trafficking and what they can do to stop it.
In our travels around the state, we've met with survivors and local leaders to see firsthand how this industry threatens children and young adults. The average age of a human trafficking victim is just 14 years old. Human trafficking exists in every county, but the victims exist in the shadows. With this training, you will learn how to recognize warning signs, notify the right people, and save lives.
We challenge you to take what you learn and share it with your family members, friends, and coworkers. Encourage them to join us in this fight.
We each have a part to play in this effort and can make a difference. Just as we worked with the GBI to organize a training seminar at the University of Georgia, you can help raise awareness in your communities and create eyes and ears statewide focused on bringing these crimes out of the darkness.
You're already taking the first step towards that goal with this training. We thank you again for joining us in the fight to rid Georgia of human trafficking. The information within could help save a life, so we hope you will carry these lessons with you always.
Upon completion of the training, you will be able to identify what constitutes human trafficking and understand its prevalence in the state of Georgia, the United States, and the world. Identify those involved in sex trafficking from perpetrators to victims, and recognize and properly report the signs of sex trafficking. This course has 3 modules: what is human trafficking, who is involved in sex trafficking, and how to identify and report sex trafficking. In Module 1, we will answer, what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is a crime involving the exploitation of a person for labor or commercial sex through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. The Department of Homeland Security defines human trafficking as a modern-day form of slavery involving the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain. Human trafficking is the fastest-growing illegal industry in the world. It generates an estimated $236 billion annually, which represents an average of $10,000 of revenue on a per-victim basis. Human trafficking is not limited to a certain demographic. It affects people of any nationality, age, social or economic status, or gender in every country of the world. There is no official estimate of victims in the United States. However, it is believed that the total is in the millions. Less than 1% of the victims are identified and rescued. The state of Georgia is not exempt from this issue. Human trafficking occurs not only in our cities, but across the state, including our suburbs and rural areas. Human trafficking is illegal in the state of Georgia, pursuant to Georgia Code Section 16546. Consider the following statistics for human trafficking in the state of Georgia. The average age of a human trafficking victim in Georgia is 14.8 years old. Approximately 7,200 men purchase sex from a minor every month in Georgia. Over 370 girls are commercially sexually exploited in Georgia each month. Around 65% of men purchasing sex with young females do so in and around suburban and metro Atlanta, with 9% occurring near the airport. Atlanta has the highest number of trafficked Hispanic females in the nation. According to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, CJCC, the 1-866-END-HTGA statewide hotline received human trafficking-related calls from 141 out of 159 Georgia counties. Georgia Human Trafficking Hotline, total number of calls, in 2022, 1,155. 2023, 1,543. Because of the pervasiveness of this heinous crime, Governor Brian Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp created the Georgians for Refuge, Action, Compassion, and Education Commission, or GRACE Commission, to combat the threat of human trafficking in the state of Georgia. The GRACE Commission is comprised of leaders from the public and private sector, law enforcement, and subject matter experts, with the goal to make Georgia a safe haven for survivors and a hostile environment for traffickers and buyers. Since 2019, the Office of the Attorney General has housed a dedicated Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit, or HTPU, tasked with ensuring perpetrators face justice. The following statistics provided by the HTPU on its work are a stark reminder of the prevalence of human trafficking in Georgia. Convictions secured, 50. This includes perpetrators who have been convicted in multiple jurisdictions. Victims rescued and assisted, 188. Case investigations led or assisted in, 325. Most victims encountered by the Attorney General's office are between 15 and 17 years old. However, these children have been victimized long before their first encounter with law enforcement, often being sold between 5 to 10 times per day. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, and their Human Exploitation and Trafficking HEAT Unit have also been instrumental in these efforts. Since its inception in 2020, 95 potential victims of human trafficking have been recovered. From 2020 to 2023, they investigated 468 cases of human trafficking. These investigations led to 113 arrests.
Hi, I'm Susan Norris. I'm the founder of Rescuing Hope, and we are an anti-human trafficking organization that has a mission to enlighten the public of sex trafficking in America, educate potential victims and first responders, and empower advocates and survivors. Traditionally, human trafficking happens through force, fraud, or coercion. Law enforcement tells us that only about 3% are taken through force. What we really see is more of a combination of fraud and coercion, where people either meet someone out in the public, they're going up to our young people saying, "You're beautiful, you should be a model, here's my card," or "We're looking for backup dancers for a hip hop video for," and then they'll rattle off the latest rapper who is known to come into Atlanta and record. But the way most of the young ladies that we are serving today are taken into the sex trade is through being groomed and recruited and lured on social media and dating apps. Our young people do not have the full development of their frontal lobe where they're able to make decisions and see the far-reaching effects of their choices. And so they're posting photos that many times a trafficker will use that very photo for their ad online. And They are oversharing. They're letting the trafficker know when there's problems at home, or when they're home alone, or that they feel very judged, alone, ugly, whatever it is, because a trafficker is a chameleon and they will be whatever the potential victim needs them to be for them to gain some trust. And so before you know it, they convince this individual to go from a place of safety to a place of vulnerability. And they're willing to, because they don't see this person as a stranger manipulating them. They see this as a boyfriend or a real close friend, someone that they know. There's not one particular way that people exit the life. Sometimes they get caught in a sting that law enforcement does. Sometimes it's a victim is somewhere and sees a hotline number, and they may not make a phone call that day, but it may be 3 weeks or 3 months later that they're in a situation where they have access to a phone and they can make that phone call. And so people who are out there putting hotline signs up, yeah, that's great, because you never know who it's going to reach. It may be that they actually talk with someone who's purchasing them, and that individual shares that they're not there by their own choice. I've talked to a couple of girls that actually a purchaser assisted their exit. And it could be that they get bold and they climb out a window, or they sneak out of a hotel room and bolt out a back door. There can be lots of ways that that happens. We've served young ladies that when they find this is a safe place and these are safe people and I trust them, they'll reach back to those that they were in the life with, and they help them set up an escape. So we have seen survivors helping survivors. We've seen victims do so on their own accord. We've seen law enforcement get involved. We've seen people in airplanes and bus stations intervene in ways that they notice something and they call law enforcement. So there really is not one canned way that someone gets out. There are two things that we've come to learn in this work, and one is that being able to come and go is very different than being able to leave. A trafficker could keep a child that the victim has as collateral for bringing them back in, or a threat of harm to a family member for bringing them back in. So they may be able to come and go to the clients, but they can't leave. And then another thing that we've learned is it may take a short amount of time to get someone into the life. And it may take a little more time to physically get them out of the life. But the hardest battle that a victim of human trafficking has to fight is getting the life out of them. And that's getting them to believe that they are worth the effort, that the hard work that they're doing to try and deal with their complex trauma will yield a better life in the future. And that takes longer than 9 months or 12 months. In many cases, it takes decades.
To review, Module 1 covered the following topics: the definition of human trafficking, statistics on how human trafficking is both a local, state, and global issue. Human trafficking is illegal in the state of Georgia, and examples of human trafficking in Georgia. In Module 2, we will discuss what sex trafficking is and who is involved in it. Sex trafficking is a form of human trafficking involving sexual exploitation, including sexual slavery. Victims are subject to sexual servitude, either through coercion, including threats of force, or deception, for the value or benefit of another individual. Sexual servitude includes the participation in or performance of any sexually explicit conduct. Perpetrators are not only those who participate in or benefit from the sexual conduct, but also those who facilitate or create the opportunity for this exploitation to occur. Victims are forced into a lifestyle of dependency on their traffickers and are used to provide sexual services to purchasers in a variety of settings. Some examples include, but are not limited to, the following: illicit massage businesses, online gaming and live streams, bars and clubs, brothels, pornography production, hotels, travel hubs such as airports and truck stops. It is important to note if the victim is under the age of 18 or suffers from a developmental disability, the elements of force, coercion, and deception are not required, as they cannot consent to sex and are always victims of sex trafficking. There are 3 participant groups involved in sex trafficking: victims, traffickers, and buyers. Victims of sex trafficking can be of any age and are frequently lured by false promises of a lucrative job, stability, education, or a caring relationship. Victims of sex trafficking can be of any nationality, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. Victims of sex trafficking fall into one of 2 groups whose conditions of victimization differ: victims under the age of 18 or children used for sexual servitude, and adult victims used for sexual servitude through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. The commercial sexual exploitation of children, CSEC, refers to the sexual abuse of a person under the age of 18 in exchange for something of value, including things that may not have direct monetary value. The recipients of such value include, but are not limited to, a human trafficker. Traffickers are not just individuals who abduct children. More often, someone the victim knows, such as a parent, relative, or other authority figure, forces the victim into sexual exploitation. Let's review some of the key points in the CSEC definition. The exchange of something of value. This is not limited to strictly monetary transactions. It may include goods or services, such as food or a place to stay, or in exchange for drugs or other illegal items. Possible inclusion of a third party. Money or other things of value need not be received directly by the exploited child or retained by the child. The transaction may be brokered by or the money transferred to someone else, such as a human trafficker, relatives, or gang members. Not limited to overt sexual acts. Sexual exploitation of a child is not limited to overt sexual acts. It may include such things as pornography, stripping, or dancing. Adults used for the act of sexual servitude are victimized through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. Sex traffickers use violence, threats, lies, debt bondage, and other forms of coercion to compel adults to engage in commercial sex acts against their will. The situations that sex trafficking victims face vary dramatically. Many victims become romantically involved with someone who then forces or manipulates them into prostitution. Others are lured in with false promises of a job, such as modeling or dancing. They may be involved in a trafficking situation for days or weeks, or may remain in the same trafficking situation for years. Examples of vulnerabilities include, but are not limited to, the following: economic instability and lack of secure employment, exposure to migration crises and deception recruitment tactics, social isolation or lack of a support network. In the United States, there are various categories of sex trafficking. Although this list does not include all categories, the 3 main categories reviewed in this course are very common as documented by survivors of sex trafficking. Human trafficker controlled trafficking. Human traffickers pride themselves on tricking their victims into selling their bodies for money and thinking they have freely chosen to do it. Gang controlled trafficking. At least 3 or more persons associated with a criminal street gang who work in concert to further a human trafficking enterprise. Family-controlled trafficking. Relatives could be parents, step-parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, siblings, or cousins, often a form of domestic abuse that is passed down from generation to generation. The following news clip provides an example of a human trafficking survivor who was sold for sex at the age of 15 and the challenges she overcame to escape and report the crimes against her.
I'm just now getting comfortable with speaking on it. I just want a voice. I have a voice.
Tonight, a story of survival and perseverance. A 15-year-old runaway who found herself being sold to dozens of men for sex by a man who found her on a dating app.
Human trafficking is a major issue across the metro. Tonight, a young woman who survived is sharing her story with us for the very first time. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn sat down with this incredibly brave woman. So, Cody, how did all this unfold?
Well, I got an Instagram message last month. In fact, it's right here. It was a screenshot of my report from one of the men who bought this young woman for sex being convicted. The message read, you can see, I am the 15-year-old being sex trafficked, and after my case, I will have to tell you my story. Well, last week, the man who sold her to dozens of men was found guilty. Tonight, the story is no longer about them, and it's a story you'll see only on 11 Alive. She was just a child.
I was a runaway.
In 2018, at 15 years old,
I don't know my way around Atlanta.
she quickly found herself online, like every teenager.
I ended up being on basically like a dating profile.
She posed as an 18-year-old, and it wasn't long until her inbox was filling
He was
up.
basically selling me fake fantasies of him being my boyfriend or us being together, building like an empire and stuff.
When in reality, it was a predator grooming his next victim.
Me being young and not having a father figure, it's like I can't really tell if a dude is trying to use me or if they really want to be with me because I never experienced that love from a male figure. So I was just that person falling for it.
Less than 2 weeks after meeting on a dating app,
The same app I met him from, that's the same app he was selling me off of.
it continued on for several months.
I was given beans, which have like multiple drugs in it. Me being on those, I wasn't really here. Like physically I was here, but mentally I wasn't here.
She believed she was sold to at least 50 men.
I told him that I don't want to do it anymore. My body can't take it. My body was very messed up badly to the point where I couldn't even walk.
It would be one of the buyers who showed up for sex who got her out.
He came and he noticed something was wrong. He told me that to get my stuff that he's going to get me out that situation. And that's how I really got out.
An escape she never thought would happen.
It looks easy to run and get away, but in reality it's not.
Shortly after getting out, she was arrested. Finally, her chance to tell police about being sold and bought for sex. But nothing happened.
I felt like nobody believed me.
She wasn't far off.
I thought people was just having a hard time trying to find me because I was in foster homes and I was in group homes too. So I thought it was just hard for people to find me. But it wasn't that.
Her case was actually closed by local authorities. In 2021, the Attorney General's Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit reopened it and prosecuted it.
I just got my closure at court. I'm happy now. I'm really happy.
She's incredible. This is absolutely heartbreaking because she's just one of so many teens being sold and bought for sex right now. It's why we cannot turn our heads when we hear about runaways. They're running from something. And if we don't find them, these predators will. It took this man 1 week to groom, lure, and sell this child for sex.
Absolutely eye-opening. Such an important story to tell. Cody Alcorn, thank you. You can follow Cody's original report for the story right now. Just head to 11alive.com.
Sex traffickers are any person who provides transportation, assists, or knowingly provides a location for sex trafficking. Some examples include, but are not limited to, the following. Individual operators in small networks ranging from lone individuals to small groups who collaborate in the sexual exploitation of others. Organized crime groups ranging from gangs to larger criminal syndicates that engage in sex trafficking. Legitimate business fronts, which serve as fronts for sex trafficking activities. Peer-to-peer recruitment, in which individuals within a peer group, such as friends or acquaintances, are forced or manipulated into sex trafficking and or exploiting others. It is impossible to discuss sex trafficking participants without addressing the demand. The buyers create the demand. Buyers are the persons who pay for receiving goods or services from the victims. Human traffickers blatantly advertise their victims' sexual services with provocative photographs and unsubtle messages, complete with their per-hour pricing. The human traffickers pay online classified websites to display their messages. Sex trafficking is in some respects a hidden crime, but for a trafficker to make money, which is the ultimate goal, he or she must obtain a stream of paying clients or Johns and provide an array of new victims. As a review, Module 2 covered the following: the definition and impact of sex trafficking, the individuals involved in and impacted by sex trafficking, victims, traffickers, and buyers. In Module 3, we will review the signs of sex trafficking and how to report suspicious activity.
Human trafficking is a horrible crime involving the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain. Traffickers use violence, threats, lies, or other forms of control to manipulate their victims and coerce them into acts against their will. Unfortunately, trafficking hides in plain sight, especially in places where people gather, like airports.
In Georgia, we are united in the fight to eradicate human trafficking.
We've worked hard to create a safe haven for survivors and a hostile environment for buyers and traffickers.
State, local, and federal agencies have made great strides in the fight, and you too can play a part in keeping our children and vulnerable adults safe.
Please be on the lookout for suspicious activity and know that if you see something, it's okay to say something to authorities.
Some of the telltale signs of human trafficking to watch for are poor physical health, lack of control, and more. Poor physical health can manifest as signs of poor hygiene, malnourishment, or signs of physical abuse. Lack of control includes having few personal possessions, wearing the same clothes regardless of circumstances, and not being allowed to speak for oneself. Other signs to watch for include avoiding eye contact and hesitating to talk to strangers, and an inability to clarify where they are staying, or tattoos branding them as a member of sex trafficking.
It is up to us to combat these evils and keep our children and vulnerable adults safe. If you think you have witnessed a traffic situation, keep careful track of your observation to report. If the victim is in immediate danger, call 911. Otherwise, you can call 1-866-END-HTGA, where trained law enforcement agents and advocates and first responders are available 24/7. That number again is 1-866-363-4842. Together, by knowing the signs of trafficking and who to contact, we can help end trafficking in the Peach State and beyond.
It is important to recognize the signs of sex trafficking. Recognizing potential red flags and knowing some of the indicators of sex trafficking provides a key step in identifying more victims and helping them find the assistance they need. Sex trafficking is often a crime hidden in plain sight. Consider the following indicators or warning signs exhibited by a person who may be a victim of sex trafficking. Examples of poor physical health include the following: shows signs of poor hygiene, malnourishment, and or fatigue, has injuries or signs of physical abuse. Examples of lack of control include the following: has few personal possessions and always wears the same clothes regardless of the weather or circumstances, is frequently monitored, is not allowed or able to speak for themselves. A third party may insist on being present and or translating. The following Delta clip provides an example of how to spot the signs of human or sex trafficking in Georgia or anywhere you may travel.
Hey, sit down. Sit down.
I have to go to class.
Go with her. What's that all about?
I saw them in the parking lot. I don't know what it is, but something's not right about that.
I think it's human trafficking.
You know, I thought the same thing, and I Googled human trafficking. Take a look at this and tell me what you think.
Never by yourself. Understand? Put it down. Put it down. Let's go. Let's go. Get up. Stop. Go.
Examples of other signs or indicators include the following: avoids eye contact and appears hesitant to speak to strangers, false claims of just visiting, and inability to clarify where they are staying or the address, may have tattoos used to brand the individual as a victim of human or sex trafficking. The following Delta clip provides an example of how to spot a victim of human or sex trafficking in Georgia or anywhere near you.
Hello, welcome to Delta. May I see your boarding pass and your identification, please? Thank you. May I see your identification, please? Thank you very much. How many bags will you be checking?
Just one.
If you'll place it on my scale for me, please.
Let's go. Help her.
What significance do those tattoos have?
It's personal.
Your baggage claim receipt, and thank you for traveling on Delta.
Let's go.
Knowing how you react to a possible human or sex trafficking situation is an important component of how to solve this crime. We will review intervening, tracking observations, and context clues. Do not intervene. Engaging with human traffickers can endanger the lives of their victims. Keep track of your observations. Note any signs or red flags so you can provide the most accurate information of the events, such as physical descriptions, number of people, and suspicious behaviors. Observe any context clues, such as not allowing the victims to interact or speak with others, or any degrading treatment or controlling behavior. Here is what to do depending on your observations. Call 911 if it is an emergency or you see that the victim is endangered or his or her life is being threatened. That is, the victim needs immediate help. Do not be afraid to call and report something that you think is not quite right. You are trying to help. We strongly encourage you to contact the Georgia Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-866-363-4842 or call 1-866-NHTGA to report anything suspicious. If you need to add the phone number, pause the video. You can also text HELP or INFO to Be Free or 233-733 for the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. You can also download the See Something, Send Something app, which allows you to send a picture or written notes to the State Police Intelligence Center, where its credibility can be examined or referred to the proper law enforcement agency if necessary. If you need to download the app, pause the video. The following video showcases real-world instances of human trafficking in Georgia. It highlights the effectiveness of specialized training in helping our law enforcement agencies and residents alike to identify and respond to these crimes.
New at 6, a human trafficking victim is now safe and sound thanks to a sheriff's lieutenant.
It ended during a different high-speed chase, and now the lieutenant is telling us how his training may have saved a life. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie live in DeKalb County with the rescue of a 16-year-old.
Yeah, well, this is a real team effort. The special agent in charge of the GBI's Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, HEAT, says this case is a great example of local law enforcement recognizing something was wrong with a traffic stop, leading to the rescue of a 16-year-old trafficking victim who had been sexually exploited here in Metro Atlanta and possibly elsewhere. We begin with the Greene County Sheriff's Office dramatic dash cam video.
During the course of the pursuit, reached speeds upwards of 119 miles an hour.
You want me to talk timeline? You want me to continue with the goal, or wait and count it?
Once they were able to make that stop, they were able to identify several red flags of human trafficking, among other things.
You feel like you and Sergeant Jordan Knowles really saved somebody that night?
I feel like every officer that was out there that night did.
Greene County Sheriff Donnie Harrison says it started out as an attempted traffic stop over tinted windows and other issues, but it ended as a human trafficking case with the rescue of a 16-year-old victim after his deputies chased a fleeing Cadillac into neighboring Taliaferro County.
And ultimately, Taliaferro County SO pitted the vehicle using the pit maneuver and got it to come to a stop.
His deputies recognized red flags.
There were several indicators that I had knowledge of from some training that I've had.
You trained with GBI?
I have.
And called in human trafficking investigators from the GBI.
We sent several agents over there to assist them with the investigation, and they were able to rescue a 16-year-old young lady. Based on the preliminary investigation, we believe that she had been exploited several times in the Metro Atlanta area.
The sheriff says the driver of the Cadillac, Anthony Holmes, is charged with a long list of charges including human trafficking, fleeing and eluding, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of firearm by a convicted felon, possession of firearm during the commission of a crime, contributing to delinquency of a minor, and various traffic-related charges. In jail, Holmes suggested to me someone connected with the alleged human trafficking victim asked him to help get her away from someone who was threatening to kill her. Holmes says he was not trafficking the young woman. He says he fled because of warrants in Ohio unrelated to this situation, and that he plans to plead not guilty to all the charges. Sheriff's Lieutenant Patrick Paquette says a gun was recovered on the interstate where a deputy reported it had been thrown out the passenger side of the Cadillac during the chase. He says an adult woman passenger was arrested on 3 charges, though at last check she had not been charged with human trafficking. He says at first the 16-year-old victim seemed reluctant to cooperate. Not unusual in such cases.
And after the GBI agents came and interviewed her, she was seeking out help.
Every day on Georgia's highways.
Every day.
Are there children being trafficked for sex?
This is a $32 billion industry. It's the second largest criminal activity in the United States. You have people, including children, that are being sold for labor and sex, on a continuous basis in a large.
GBI Special Agent in Charge Anita Ivey says the $32 billion figure refers to human trafficking of children and adults. She says this 16-year-old victim is from Ohio, had been rescued by South Carolina authorities, and the FBI identified as a human trafficking victim, but left South Carolina, allegedly with Holmes. She says the young woman is now seeking victim services and ultimately will be returned to Ohio. Reporting live at GBI headquarters, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
As a review, Module 3 covered the following: how to recognize signs of sex trafficking, how to react when you witness sex trafficking, and how to properly report sex trafficking. As a public servant, you play an important role in all aspects of Georgia business. As such, you may encounter suspected cases of human trafficking in your own community. By teaching you how to identify red flags and outlining steps for reporting human and sex trafficking, you are now a trained eye, working to stop this horrific crime. Know the signs, speak up, make a difference. For additional information on how to help, visit the Human Resources Administration Human Trafficking Awareness webpage on the DOAS website. Congratulations! You have completed the Human Trafficking Awareness training. You are now ready to properly define human trafficking and sex trafficking, identify the individuals involved in sex trafficking, recognize the signs of sex trafficking, and properly react to and report sex trafficking. If you have any questions or comments regarding this training, send an email to georgia.learning@doas.ga.gov.